Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session on expanding your marketing team by working with an agency. We will be joined by some great panelists this afternoon. We have Bill Admonds from Own Zones, Richard McClurg from Tijero, and hopefully joining us, Richard Johnson from Hitomi. But before we talk to the vendors who are working with the agencies, we're going to hear first from the agencies themselves. We know some of them have a tendency to talk a bit, so our colleagues at the IABM here have done a great job in getting them to pre-record what they had to say. So we have a little video to play for them.
Okay, tip number one, teamwork. So by hiring a PR agency, you have extended the power of your marketing team and brought on board people whose expertise you can lean on for areas of the business you may not have the time or the skill to address in-house. So consider the agency a fully fledged part of your team. Make sure to include them in your marketing planning and keep them abreast of any strategy changes. And don't be shy to ask their opinion on any marketing moves you may be unsure of. A them and us approach limits the service your PR team can provide. So always remember, there is strength in numbers. Tip number two, trust. So trust your own judgment when it comes to the choice you made and trust the advice of the agency you hired. You most likely hired your agency because they can provide you with knowledge and skills that your company may not have in-house. Your agency will have built up a significant amount of experience from working with a variety of clients in whatever industry they specialise in. Their tight relationships with press, analysts, resellers, customers, and other important stakeholders have been cultivated with care for many years. This is invaluable perspective that can inform very sound and strategic advice. So for best results, listen and put trust in their strategic counsel and give them the opportunity to do what they do best. Tip number three, agility. So during the hiring process, it's important to make sure your agency isn't too rigid and can respond and adapt quickly to your changing business needs. A situation like the recent pandemic will have highlighted very clearly which agencies were a sound choice and were able to shift priorities, and which might have struggled to help their clients adapt to an uncertain business environment. So make sure to review your existing PR relationships in this light, and don't be afraid to make the switch to a different agency if necessary. Tip number four, clarity. So it's really important to define clear expectations together with your PR agency, so you can come up with a productive plan together. Remember to keep your agency informed and, as appropriate, involved in any change of messaging or needs that might occur throughout the year. The sooner this happens, the quicker your agency can work with you to adapt the messaging and deliverables for your PR program as you go forward. Tip number five, measurement. So the existence of mutually satisfactory key performance targets will really help to guide your agency and support a successful and long-standing collaboration. Your agency should in turn be very transparent about its achievements against the deliverables and should be able to provide you with regular updates against the agreed KPIs to allow you to continually review progress and results and fine-tune your strategy as you move forward together.
Tips on maximizing your relationship with a PR marketing agency. I think the first one is just making sure the fit is right. You know, are they the right team to work with your own in-house team, or if you haven't got an in-house team, are they the right fit to work with you? You know, you don't want to be, if you're a startup, going into a massive agency where you're going to get lost. So I think making sure that you've got a good fit in terms of the way they think and the way they talk. The way they go about their business is a real key thing to get right from the get-go. Number two, defining success, going into a relationship knowing what the goals are and what success looks like. You don't want to be setting out your stall saying we want to be on Channel 4 News or the Times or whatever it may be, if that's not a realistic goal. And I think making sure that you've got a collective understanding between you and the agency of what success looks like, it will prevent a bit of pain further down the line. That'll be tip two. Tip three, communication. I think, you know, it's the bread and butter or the engine in terms of, you know, getting anything decent done with an agency relationship, is making sure the lines of comms are open. There's no excuse these days for not having a good collaborative relationship with your agency, with things like Slack and Teams and all the other digital tools that are in place to make sure those lines of comms are open. So I think getting that right is a really important aspect of success between an agency and a client as well. I think another tip 4 would be to make sure that you've got a partnership relationship rather than a supplier relationship. I think seeing your agency as a partner is really fundamental to having a successful relationship. Because you need to invest in your agency relationship. There's no point in just bringing somebody on board and saying, well, off you go and do your thing. I think you need to invest, give guidance, share insights into your business to enable success from a communications point of view. So I think having that set up as a partnership rather than viewing them as a supplier is a real key thing. And then I think it's the final point would just be making sure you're across what they're doing. It sounds pretty straightforward, but you're paying for a team to work on your business. Make sure they're pointed in the right direction. Make sure they're focused in the right projects or the right channels that you want to be focused on. Obviously, they'll be there. An agency will be there as in an advisory capacity, but ultimately you're paying the bills. So making sure that you're getting your value for money by having them work on what you need them to work on is pretty important as well. So yeah, that'll be tip 5.
So number 1 is, if you work with a marketing or PR agency, basically you get the bigger picture. You're not necessarily limited by the internal thinkings or the internal focus of which particular organization you work for. Number 2, an agency works with a multitude of different organizations, different brands. No conflicts, not competitive, but they should be able to actually give you, through this diversification, you will achieve wider exposure and obviously, hopefully, some good business opportunities that would come out that maybe you hadn't thought of were totally in line with where you were actually thinking about your strategy. Big one for me, the agency should be an extension of your organization, almost like part of your family, really. Therefore, you're not just going to get 1 or 2 people maybe that you work with, but you're going to get the whole damn lot. And that actually means a vast experience of a multitude of people at the end of the phone or email waiting for you. Number 4, an agency typically has all the skills that you'd require in a marketing department. And I'll read this off just in case. Content generators, graphics design, that's including video as well as website, digital marketing, account managers and strategists. Just imagine all those headcounts that you'd need and you get it in one retainer for an agency. Basically, do the maths. And number 5, working with an agency who understands your business, your goals, even your pain points. Basically a real trusting relationship. Together, you're going to reach what you need to reach. You'll achieve your aspirations and maybe what you didn't even think you could accomplish. Good luck.
Firstly, we provide an honest and objective consultancy. We're always going to have a different view. We might have the same view, but whatever it is, we'll be able to give you some different knowledge or experience that we can bring to some decisions that you might be making that you might not get in-house. Number 2 is the provision of full service capabilities. Here at Bubble, we have an in-house marketing team and we can plug those gaps for you. Alternatively, we can project manage. So you might have a certain part of your marketing element that you can't fulfill, but we can. So that's definitely where to use an agency. Number 3, we can tap into a larger network of introductions to customers and connections. We're speaking to the press day in, day out, and it's very difficult for an in-house team to do that. But also we have this huge network of having worked in this industry for so long. That's why our strapline is transforming your business with our knowledge and network. Number 4, technical writing expertise. You might have this in-house. However, what we do as an agency is we make it press facing and customer facing. We can dial it up and we can dial it down. And that's something that can be difficult to get in-house. Number 5, You'll have a range of people from an agency with different skills and different tool sets. And also, because that is our job and it's our bread and butter, we keep training and we keep refreshing what those latest tech and trends in marketing are. And so we can help you and provide you with advice on that. We'll be an extension of your team and provide you with that expertise.
So I just want to say thank you again to Caroline and Glenn and Jenny and Sadie for the contributions there. I'm going to bring our panelists into the studio now. So first off, like I say, we have Bill Admonds, who's COO and VP of Operations at Own Zones, and Richard McClurg, VP of Marketing at Gero. And hopefully, Ben, maybe you can help if we can get Russell joining as well. I know he's trying to log in; he's had some problems there. But we'll come to it in a bit. So I think there were some really interesting points there from the video. Lots I'm sure we agree with, and maybe a few things that we can challenge a little bit. But I got some questions from what the speakers said there. And the first thing I want to pick up on is making sure you're with the right agency. So Caroline made a point around agility and that agencies should be agile and change with the business needs. I think, Glenn also made some points about, making sure that they fit with your team or with you if you don't have a team. But then there's the question of, Caroline also said, you shouldn't be afraid to switch agencies and regularly sort of review or change agencies if necessary. So coming to Bill first, if that's all right, how often have you or do you review your agency or to go out and evaluate the market and see what's there? And what kind of things would you be looking for in that case?
We look at our agency on a regular basis, like we do with any of our vendor needs and vendor relationships. We're actually going through a rebranding process at the moment with our company, and what we've chosen to do is to maintain our constant relationship with Bubble, who is our agency. They're like our in-house Marcom team, and they really keep us going on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis with all of our Marcom activities. We actually chose a separate agency for our branding purely because we needed to focus on the constant workload that needed to come through for our Marcom versus the very focused, targeted work for the rebranding of the company. So, it's important to evaluate what the capabilities of your team are, but not only that, also it's really understanding how they're resourced and how you're going to focus the areas of work that you need to do. And make sure that they're aligned with what your objectives are at the time.
And over to you, Richard. But when did you last review your agency choice, and what are the big factors there?
Yeah, we certainly we take a similar approach. It really comes down to is your business needs changing, and if your business needs are changing, maybe you need to reconsider what agency may make the most sense for you in that change. But certainly we reevaluate it on an annual basis. We just to make sure the agencies that we are working with align with what our objectives are and what our needs are for at that particular point in time. So it's certainly something that we consider quite on a regular basis.
And actually, one of the other questions, and I think Sadie talked about having specialists that work on various parts of marketing disciplines, having the team that was really up to date on marketing tech and those kind of things. But Bill, you there spoke to having multiple agencies, a separate one for the rebrand. And one question that I had listening to the video is one agency really enough? Do we need multiple agencies for different verticals or different parts of the industry, or even for different segments, different skill sets? For example, SEO is something that's very specialist and always changing all the time. So how many agencies do we need? Richard, I'll go to you first on this one.
Yeah, again, I think it really depends on your needs. It also, I think it greatly depends on what stage of business you're in. And it's going to be different if you're a startup versus a scale up versus an enterprise. And it's how many agencies can you really afford as well. So that's part of it. sometimes you can find an agency that can help you in a wide area, and there's times where there's a specialist need where you're going to have to look at another agency. A great thing about working with a great agency is sometimes they'll make recommendations for you as well. They might say, hey, you know what, for what you're looking for, we can't quite provide that, but we do know somebody that can provide that. Or even sometimes it could mean they might recommend a freelancer perhaps that might fill a gap for you at that time. So it's really having those honest conversations with the agency, what their skills are, what your business needs are, and making sure that that's aligned.
Good answer. I agree. Bill, anything to add to your previous comments there?
I think Richard covered it very well. I think the key is one of the things that was mentioned in the video is that the agency is a partner in your success. And since our agency Bubble is our Marcom team, essentially in-house. They replace most of the roles. It's really important that we are fully aligned in what our objectives of the company are, what we're trying to do both strategically for the company, but also in terms of serving our customers and going after our customers, making sure our go-to-market plan is fully aligned. And that means really looking at having an honest conversation with the agency and their capabilities and what they can provide to help us get to where we need to be on our objectives.
So while I remember, please do ask any questions that you have of the panel. There's a Q&A and a chat. You can use either of those. We have got a couple of questions come in, so I will get to them in a moment. But I just want to pick up on something that Bill mentioned there, and also Glenn highlighted in his sort of top tips. And I think this applies particularly if you're a smaller organization and you are having to outsource or use an agency to really fulfill a lot of marketing roles, which is how do you manage that? So making sure that you're communicating, but also tracking the progress, tracking what the agency's doing. I think Glenn specifically said making sure they're doing what you want them to do. And if you are working very closely with an agency, in the sense that they are, we have Richard too. So if they're essentially a very close part of the team replacing internal staff, how do you go about managing them in terms of task management, in terms of managing them as part of a team in the same way as you would internal employees? So yeah, Bill, we'll start with you there.
Okay, that's actually a really good question. Managing your agency is like managing any other vendor. And it's a little more complicated with us because they're replacing an in-house team as well. So we have weekly meetings that are structured. We have an agenda that is aligned with our marketing objectives, with our marketing plan. We work with the marketing team on a quarterly basis, really reviewing what our strategy is going forward and making sure that we continue to be aligned and making any rudder adjustments along the way. One of the things that I do love about our marketing team within the agency is that we're an engineering-focused company, so we work as an agile company within a team within our company, and agility is something that our agency is also able to provide. We work in short sprints with our agency, just like we work with our engineers in short sprints. So it's really, I think it's important to constantly be checking in with them, having that structure, that organized dialogue, having a strategic plan, having the regular check-ins to make sure that everything, the work in progress is what you're expecting, and then making sure that the KPIs are delivering so that you can make adjustments along the way. Which is absolutely critical. You don't want to just have something that gets delivered, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You want to be able to adjust very quickly so that that investment you're making pays off.
Sorry I was late, everybody. I was having great difficulties with the technical side of things. I've never used Tableau before, and apparently I was logged in as a user rather than a panel member. So anyway, here I am now. Apologies for that.
Ben, you're on mute again.
I swear I didn't press the mute button. So just want to say, yeah, Russell, thank you. Glad you made it. So Russell Johnson, Director at IOTAMI. Hopefully you heard the last question, but we're talking about the working with agencies as if they're an internal team. So how do you manage your agency? You make sure that they're doing what you want them to do, that you're getting productivity out of the team, working as an extension of your team.
Well, similarly, we have once a week, we have a conference, which usually, and we can actually talk to each other because it's a tool we're both used to. No, we get together doing a Teams chat once a week, but as things go along, we chat as and when we need it. We got together in person quite a lot before the days of COVID, which was great. There was one particular session which was held in our offices here at Rutland Barn, which was like a brainstorming session. The ladies from Manor Marketing came and we had our team here. It worked really, really well. It was just like having them as part of our working group who were part of the company. So yeah, I mean, we just pick up the phone to each other or chat as and when.
I know. Richard, anything different to add from your side or methodologies? I think, by the way, Bill, the sprint methodology is very interesting, one I know that our marketing team use internally too. But Richard.
Yeah, it's very similar to Bill and Russell, to be honest. We have a regular cadence, regular meetings with our agency, and the one thing is it really depends on what's going on. So in addition to that regular meeting, quite often we'd be in contacting or in touch with them on could be a daily basis, to be honest. So yeah, that's the approach that we take. We do start the year off with establishing a plan. We agree to what that plan is for the year. But as you know, obviously, incredibly agile plan, it changes depending on our needs.
And one other thing that I think Jenny mentioned, in fact, everybody mentioned, was pretty much treating the agency as part of your internal team, and that they can take that responsibility, act as if they were. But is it really possible for somebody who is external to your organization and probably working with lots of different technology from lots of different vendors, and by the nature of a lot of the agencies we work with, we don't particularly like them working with our competition, so they're not going to work with technology like ours except for our account. Is it really possible for them to understand our technology and our business as well as an internal team could do? Richard, I'll come to you first on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's up to you as the client to make sure that they're well informed about what your business objectives are, what your marketing strategy is. So we certainly consider the agency that we're using NTM, and they're an extension of our team. So it's really up to us to make sure, keep them informed what's going on. And they bring the industry knowledge, they bring that experience with working with other companies. They might bring other ideas that maybe we would not think of. So it's having that really great relationship, that collaboration that's really key.
Bill, anything to challenge that?
Not necessarily to challenge, but you have to trust your agency. They will work with different vendors, other customers out there. Just as in our industry, the products and services we sell, we're selling to a myriad of customers, and some of our customers will be competitors of others of our customers. We expect our customers to trust us. and we hold ourselves to a certain level of integrity, and that's part of the vendor-customer relationship, is that trust basis. It also goes down to, I think, when you're interviewing your agency, when you're getting to know your agency, really understanding, do they understand the core competencies, the areas that you work in, what your needs and requirements are? You know, one of the parts of the question you ask is, will they understand your business? Will they understand the technology? That was and remains an important tenet of what we measure our agency on, is whether they understand our technology. We're really happy with it because, you know, the folks at Bubble, when we have to write articles and things like that, they're bringing in folks who really do understand the technology. Some of the folks that write for them have actually come from technical backgrounds. Others write for some of the technical publications that are out there. So they're really making sure that they're bringing domain experts in, or folks that have a certain level of knowledge about what we're talking about. So it's just not sort of regurgitating something that we said very quickly in a you know, in a quick phone conversation when we were trying to get the brief down. They really do dive in and think about what the topic is. They have that outside perspective about what's important for the end user, for the ultimate customer, and they're able to apply that experience and knowledge to the story that they're trying to tell, so that it's this full perspective in there, not just sort of like our own sort of insular perspective.
And Russell, your perspective on that?
Yes, I'd like to add that not everything has to be very technical. So our customers tend to be broadcast engineers who use our equipment, but they're not the people who are signing off the money to buy it in the first place. So part of the marketing is we have to not only get across what the thing does, but to probably a lay person who's going to be the bookkeeping person, the person who's got the budget, which is not really technical. It needs to have an overview, and that's where Manor are really good, because the ladies aren't engineers, and they have a sort of layperson's view about it. And if we can get the message across to them and then they get it over to other people, then we've done well in getting our unique selling points through there. Yes, to Bill's point, occasionally one has to write technical articles, and Manor have lots of people that they can call on who are very good technical authors. For the general advertising and getting a snappy message across, it's much better, I think, to have lay people than engineers.
Yeah, and I think that was a point that we discussed before this session as well. You know, if you can't explain it to your agency, how you can explain it to your customers. But I think that's a well understood point. So a question we got from the Q&A then, which I think is an interesting one, is how did your agency help you deal with the pandemic? We've covered it much in the last couple of days and in lots of sort of marketing discussions over the last 6 months, how much the pandemic changed the marketing landscape for this industry. So, you know, where did they help you get exposure? And also, I think that there's another question that I would bring out of this, which is typically, some of us perhaps it shouldn't have done, but our marketing calendars have been driven by the 2 big events in the industry, 2 or 3 big events, and you know, we've all built up to those every year. That's all gone away. So how has your agency helped, and also how have you, working with your agency, how have you managed to keep momentum without those big showings? So Russell, you haven't muted your microphone, so I'll come to you first.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, I mean, like everybody, we go to IBC and NAB, and the trade shows are a great source of leads, and we always planned around that. So when COVID hit, it was really bad for everybody. I think everyone was the same, particularly when the live sports dried up. It was like you couldn't get anybody interested. We launched a new product on the first day of the UK lockdown, which was really, really bad timing. Our glass mobile phone app We couldn't get anybody interested in it. Normally, we would have people clamming to do field trials and stuff like that. But everybody was inward looking. Nobody was doing live broadcasts anymore. It was really tough. But bless them, the ladies at Manor said, you've got to keep your message out there. You've got to just keep it going as if it's business as usual. And so we wrote loads more articles. We did some videos. We did some revamping of the website, and just generally phoned around our friends and say, how's it going? You know, what's lockdown like for you? It was really quite useful, just keeping in touch with people who were regular customers who weren't actually broadcasting at the time, but it was good to know that they were being thought of. And it was very encouraging from Manor, I think, to tell us to keep the momentum up, because it was very easy to get depressed when nobody was doing any live events.
And Richard, how about you?
Yeah, hopefully my audio is a little better now. So yeah, we work with MKM, and we really shifted gears significantly, as everybody had to last year. Like Russell mentioned, our major product launches are tied to NAB and IBC, like everybody else. So we really shifted to telling a lot more stories, and that worked really well for us. Really sharing stories about how other broadcasters were adjusting to the situation. That really resonated. We got just a lot of pickup with that, a lot of media mentions. In fact, over the course of the year, our media mentions doubled compared to the year before by taking that approach. So I think there's a real hunger out there, a desire for people to learn from others how they're adapting, and I think if you can deliver content, that's going to resonate. So yeah, it was just that working with an agency that can adapt, adjust, make recommendations, and that's really key.
And lastly, to you, Bill.
For us, the pandemic wasn't really a negative impact to our business at all, because we work in the cloud. We're a digital supply chain company, and suddenly there was so much more demand for the type of content that we service in the marketplace. So, from a business point of view, the pandemic has not at all been a negative aspect. How did that change our marketing? Yeah, definitely. We didn't have to focus on the two benchmark periods of April and October with or September with IBC and NAB. And the huge hit on your budget that has is apart from the exhibiting and all of the activities you have there, you have a lot of people out at the events. There's a lot of expense in T&E and all of those sorts of things. We were able to move that into other areas for marketing and communications. So it's a matter of being able to have your business agile and being able to pivot when these changes happen. We ramped up very much in terms of our participation in other types of events. There've been a lot of virtual events like this one that BaM are hosting this week, and they've been great and more intimate. And in many ways, they've given us an opportunity to have really high value conversations with customers. It's been less shotgun. We've been able to really get our communication going in terms of press and publicity, because we've had the budget there to be able to do that and get the sorts of placements that we might normally not have had in the past. It's also about shifting how you communicate with customers. One of the things that we're working with the folks at Bubble is to shift towards account-based marketing, and use account-based marketing to directly target those customers that we want to go after. When you're looking at a big show like IBC or NAB, it's a shotgun effect. You're trying to get in front of thousands of people and hope that filters down to the number of prospects that you're looking for that are qualified. With account-based marketing, it's quite different. You know who those qualified prospects are, and you go in weeks or even months before and really target those specific people in the persona groups within that organization that you need to be talking to. And reach them in ways with communication that is very, very targeted to their needs, their problems, and the solution that you're trying to bring them. We probably, wouldn't have thought about being that targeted and that specific had the pandemic not happened and we were on normal marketing cycles. So I think that it's allowed us to change how we market, and we probably will scale back a little on our big events so that we can really focus on those customers that we want to reach.
Great. So I don't think there's anything else in the Q&A. There's still an opportunity if any of the audience want to post a question. But I have one last question to kind of wrap things up a little bit, and that would be what to each of you would be your top tip for getting the most out of working with an agency. We heard the 5 top tips from each of the agencies. So what are your top tips? Russell, I'll come to you first.
Yes, treat them like a member of staff. That's probably the thing that's been said before. But you want to work as closely as possible with them, and when you're choosing your agency, you want to choose them as carefully as you would choose a member of staff. And if you don't get on with them, then choose someone else. I mean, it's probably been said by many business owners, if you've got the wrong person on the bus, get them off quickly. And it's the same thing with the marketing. When it works well, it's really very good indeed. But if you find that you're having a bad relationship, you've got to end it and move on. But we've been really, really happy with BaM, and they've made a big difference to Hitomi. We're going to stick with it.
Richard?
Yeah, I think it's really all about the relationship, and thinking about even choosing somebody that's aligned with your values as an organization, and I think that's really important. It really does come down to that relationship, and if it's clicking, it's great. They really are like part of your team. We don't really see the difference between our internal folks and our external agency. So yeah, I think that would be my number one tip is really focus on an organization that just really aligns with who you are as an organization.
And last but by no means least, Bill.
So I did my top 5 tips while you guys were talking. I wrote them down so that I remember them. But the first one is to trust your agency, share with them, be open with them. You have to have that honest, open dialogue with your agency. It's so important that you're aligned with the strategies and your tactical plan with the agency. Don't just give them a brief and then see what they come up with. You really need to be aligned through how they're going to execute it. Do they really understand it? What they're presenting, does it make sense to you, and vice versa? Something that I think is super important is to listen to your agency's advice. In the video, each of the people sort of echoed that. They are experts in their field. They have the right relationships. They have experience with other customers. They've seen what works and what does not work. And I think it's so important that you do listen to your agency's advice and take it to heart. Sometimes we're too close to our products and services, and having an agency gives you an objective point of view. Have the right measurements in place as well. It's super important that you're measuring the right things. It's not just sort of the quantity of placements that you're getting or mentions and those sorts of things, but also how does it tie to your bottom line? Is it helping drive increase in business? If you're investing time and effort in certain areas, are you seeing that effort pay off with some sort of ROI that affects your bottom line? Because ultimately, if you're paying the agency, you're writing a check. You've got money going out, so you need to have a proportionate amount of money coming in that shows us definitely that effort has been profitable. And the last one is communicate. Any relationship works or dies on good communication. And it's the same with your relationship with the agency. we don't just rely on our weekly check-ins. We can pick up the phone and call our agency at any time, drop them an email. We have a Slack channel open. The beauty of, we're based here in Los Angeles. A lot of the Bubble team is in London. Yet it doesn't seem that there is any kind of geographical difference there and they also have people here for us as well in LA. But it doesn't seem like there's any geographical or time difference because we've got those open channels, and the technology that's available in the world allows us to do that. So, working with our agency is like working with any other part of our team. They're at a finger's touch if we need it.
Great, thank you very much. So I'd like to say thank you once again to Bill, Richard, and Russell. I think we'll wrap it up there. If you enjoyed this discussion and hearing from other marketeers who are working with agency and their experience, I would encourage you to look into the Marketing Leader Circle. This session is brought to you by BaM and MLC. Marketing Leader Circle was put together for exactly this reason, to bring people like us into one room and have these discussions and really learn from each other and learn how to get the most out of agencies and everyone else and all the tactics and things we work with in marketing. So do look into MLC. You guys, thank you once again, and have a good evening, or good day in your case, Bill.
Thank you. Good day to everyone, yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.